Hello, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube colleagues. This is Becky Carlson from Learning Pioneers. Learning Pioneers is a learning community of educators committed to being the change in education. So I wanted to jump in today to ask you, do you think it's important to vision forwards for education? Do you think it's important to vision forwards for education? That's the first question. And the second part of that is, what do you base this vision on? So if you vision forward with your schools, with your colleagues, in your own head, I do this a lot, what do you base it on? Are you basing it on trends in business, changes that are going on in our world all the time and what students might need because of that? Are you basing that on COVID and lockdown and what happened recently? This is really important. When Learning Pioneers started just before lockdown, the first lockdown, and we really had to pivot in our learning community and think, like the whole world did, how do we take the learning that we've had in the classroom and take that offline? And then when we went offline back online, we reflected on, what have we learned from? What do we notice that actually works really well and suited some students? And how can we bring that back into the classroom? So how are we learning from that, learning from lockdown? And have you asked your students what they feel is important moving forward in education? So what's your vision for education? Do you think it's important to think about that and to start to tailor what we're doing based on those visions? And what criteria are you basing that on? So I wanted to jump in and share that and link that to the previous videos that I've done over the last couple of days. Did one yesterday, did one on Friday. And each of them was looking at what we think is really important in education. So on Friday, we were exploring belonging and imagining classrooms and schools where every single child and every single adult and every single family felt like school was a place for them, where they belonged. This was the place where they can learn, where they can connect, where they have community, and therefore they feel safe and secure when they're coming into school. We think this is really, really important. And if we can pay conscious attention to this, we can adapt that in our classrooms and in our schools and do our very best to be consciously competent in how we're helping people feel that sense of belonging. So that was Friday. And then yesterday we were looking at teachers as learners and exploring whether, do we think it's as important for teachers to learn as it is for children to learn? And if we do think that's important, how are we setting up that culture in our schools so that every single teacher sees themselves as a learner and is contributing to and collaborating with their teams? So that's our learning journey and Learning Pioneers next year. Those are our first two inquiry lines, and we have incredible lead thinkers and speakers coming to inspire that thinking, to inspire us about how we can create belonging and inclusion. And we drip feed that content over time in our community so that we're discussing and reflecting and sharing thinking and embedding practice in our classrooms. And we run a book study alongside it. So we've just chosen our book study on belonging and inclusion, which I think was recommended by Kath Murdoch. Thank you so much, Kath, because we put a vote out and that's what everybody went for, was the book that you recommended. So we're going to move from that and start thinking about how we can create cultures for learning across our schools and make teacher thinking and teacher learning visible so that we can all collaborate and communicate and learn and build and reflect on that learning. So schools are places for learning. We're all learning together. Let's make that visible and collaborate together. So Anne Van Dam and Jessica Vance are going to come in together to share their thinking and their expertise on how we can develop that in our schools and classrooms. So moving into February, when our next line of inquiry will be at the very beginning of the Australian school year and getting to grips with school years across the globe, we are going to be looking at what we think education might look like in 2030. And really importantly, how can we begin to make steps towards that? Because I think it's Mark Finnis, who was one of our lead thinkers, said, a vision without a plan is just an hallucination. So we need the plan to get towards that vision. It's important to vision forwards. Then how can we start to make steps towards that? And we chose 2030. This came from collaboration in our community, because one of our fantastic schools, Sandringham School in London, who've been part of the Learning Pioneers journey since the very beginning, shared this question with their team and thought really carefully, what could learning look like in Sandringham in 2030, and then how can we make steps towards that? So our lead thinkers for this inquiry are going to be Yong Zhao and Valerie Hannon. So I just cannot wait to get their perspective. They're both incredible future thinkers in education with really kind of clear thinking, exciting thinking, and also structures to work towards that. So bringing those two incredible thinkers together to inspire our thinking about how we can put that in place in our schools and classrooms. So those are our first 3 inquiries in Learning Pioneers. So you get a taste of how carefully we think about that content and how carefully we think about our speakers. And just imagining that journey, I know that we are going to be different practitioners, different schools, different people by the time we finish that inquiry, which will finish in kind of March, April next year. We have one more line of inquiry, which will be co-created with our community members on what we need the most, so that we have that agency with our community. Everything's co-created with them. So if you think this learning journey sounds exciting, you'd like to find out more about Learning Pioneers, number one, you can check out our website, www.learningpioneers.co. You can go to our speakers page, so www.learningpioneers.co/speakers. And if you are an educator across the world interested in trying out our community and just diving in and seeing how you can amplify your learning, we have 30% discount codes just for teachers. So you can DM me in Twitter or in LinkedIn, and then I can write back and share that with you, and then you can dive in and get a feel for the community. And you can sign up for a month, get loads of inspiration, energy, you get access to all of our prior content, and see how you feel and see how it goes. And we'd love for you to continue to join that journey and continue with us. So DM me if you're interested, and I'd love to hear your thinking about what you think is important and how we can vision forward for 2030 with education. What kind of things are you visioning for education in 2030, and what criteria do you have for that? Thanks, everyone. Bye.